Welcome to the iHemp Hour, the new and improved version. Bear with us today as we're playing with new technology. You know how that goes. So my name is Dave Crable. I'm with iHemp Michigan. Our mission is to educate, inform, and promote the research, development, and cultivation of industrial hemp. iHemp advocates for wellness in people and the planet through hemp, and it begins with the farmer. We're going way out to Nebraska today to talk to Andrew Bish from Bish Enterprises. Well, you've got a few different ventures going on. Welcome, Andrew. Good to see you.
Yeah, hello. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us today. And we're joined by Blaine Bechtold. He's on a remote location, a secret hideout somewhere. How you doing, Blaine?
Hey, Dave. How you doing? Just to let you know, Jim said he had to end it, so I'm not sure if we're live
No,
yet.
you're fine.
Looks like
No,
we're still
you're
live.
good.
Okay.
That was a question I asked earlier.
All right. So, okay. So, I'm here at a secret location in Mattawan, Michigan, and on having some fun down here, and looking forward to the things that are going on. We got a couple things we'll talk about a little later in the show. Update everybody on some fun things that happened this last week with Kim and her hemp house. It's made some great news. One of our great members there. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk to Andrew today and about where we're going with the with hemp for use for livestock feed. And unfortunately, we won't have Mike with us joining today, but he's going out to see his second grandchild. So good. We wish him safe travels and a lot of fun seeing that grandchild. So
definitely, yeah. That's an important journey. All right, so let's. We didn't do our little pre-approach part. Do you want to do the introduction to Andrew?
Dave, I don't have that ready, but I'll talk to Andrew. Andrew with Bish equipment. You've got it set up there.
Andrew, let's just jump into this thing. So most of our audience, I think, is well aware of Bish equipment and what you're doing. Now you have some. Under Bish Enterprises, you have hemp-centric model of business set up as well, correct?
There's another company called Hemp Harvest Works. And that's a company that we use to basically sell the hemp equipment through. When we got started in the industry, hemp was illegal in the state of Nebraska. And so we ultimately set that up to kind of give ourselves some protection here at the main company.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting topic and a big can of worms right there, because even though it's federally legal, it's not really recognized in a lot of places, is it?
Yeah, so that's one of the challenges. One of the many challenges we have in this industry, and probably one of the main challenges when you start to talk about hemp feed. That the industry has for sure is that lack of acknowledgement that it is in fact legal.
Mm-hmm. And you brought up hemp feed. You're involved with the Hemp Feed Coalition. Will you tell us, give us a little background? We've had Hunter Buffington on in the past. I know Hunter's moved on. What's your position with the Hemp Feed Coalition, and where are they at with this whole process?
Yeah, great question. So I serve as a board member for the Hemp Feed Coalition, and Morgan Tweet is our current executive director, and she's doing a really phenomenal job helping to guide the organization as we move forward here. So where are we is another good question. Earlier this year, ultimately, we turned in an application for a animal feed ingredient for chickens, essentially what it was, but not just all chickens, egg-laying chickens. And we got a response back from AFCO regarding that this year as well. So AFCO takes about 180 days from the time in which you submit information to them to be able to respond. And after we submitted our application at the very early part, we got that information back and ultimately have been working on getting answers to them currently. But we've got an application out there for egg-laying chickens that we'd like to see approved.
Now, isn't there something happening in Pennsylvania with some eggs? Is that a trial?
Yeah, actually, out there, well, Pennsylvania actually gave some exemptions to their regulation. Basically, they gave it a temporary status, temporary grass status for the egg-laying chickens to a company out there. I think Crater Farms and Wenger. The Wenger Group have been working with the state of Pennsylvania out there for that. But yeah, there's a brand called Chicks Creek, and they're producing these hemp-fed chicken eggs. It's really, really neat to see.
Excellent.
And that's ultimately
Dr. Rosh gave a really great.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Dr. Rosh gave a really great presentation at the Midwest iHemp Expo regarding that and regarding the documentation that they've had on that. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, they've really led the way in terms of providing information necessary to help get this application approved. Wenger even reproduced the study after we got the initial response back from the FDA, from AFCO rather, they completely redid the study and got the information back to them once again. Proving out what we were trying to prove to begin with.
So what's the big
deal?
AFCO,
just for those people that don't know, that's an acronym for Association of American Feed Control Officials. That's what that stands for in that. So.
That's correct.
Are you getting? Have you gotten some feedback? Have you gotten some pushback from them? I know they put out I know a lot of states were trying to pass some legislation so that they could use hemp and feed livestock. What kind of pushback have you been getting from AFCO, or cooperation are you getting from them?
Well, I would say that we're getting a lot more pushback than cooperation. It's been a little bit difficult. What you're referring to there is a letter that was sent to all of the departments of agriculture, and ultimately, what AFCO was trying to do was trying to assert some dominance there and say, look, you're getting people that are wanting to approve this, and we haven't approved it yet, so you shouldn't be approving this as an animal food ingredient. And so relative to the pushback that we're getting, a lot of it has to do with just a general lack of understanding about cannabinoids and their desire to put forth a product that could have very, very low parts per million in cannabinoid activity. And when I say low, for instance, the THC threshold for humans right now that the FDA has established is 10 parts per million. So if you go buy a product off the shelf in a legal state, then 10 parts per million would be the amount of THC that could be allotted there. From a safety perspective, when we're looking at animal feed, that hasn't been established. And so even though we're less than 10 parts per million, they're pushing back against the lack of standard. So if you go back to the root cause of this, it's really the pushback is coming because there hasn't been certain standards established by the FDA that AFCO can then look at and then look at our data and say, well, you are under the threshold. So therefore, this could be recommended.
Now, it's also a function of how clean the seed is, right? Through that entire process. Do you manufacture that equipment for, cleaning the seed or making the hemp parts? Are you involved in that?
So I do work from a sales perspective and recommend some equipment, and we do resell some equipment for that, moving grain, things like that. But we do very, very little manufacturing, mostly on the harvesting side of it.
Okay. But is that like the biggest?
Well, that's how I first met. That's how I first met Andrew, was when I was doing the research on this. I know he had and I imagine you still have available, a head for combining grain. That's how I first met you.
Yeah, that's exactly how I got into the industry, was through the grain harvesting. And you talk about grain cleaning and cannabinoid content, and that seems to be the number one contributing factor when we're looking at COAs and cannabinoids found in hemp seed or hemp seed oil, is going to be cannabinoid transfer. That seems to be the biggest point. So if the cleaner that seed is, the less likely we're going to see levels of any type that are showing up there. And again, the levels that we're seeing are very, very, very low levels.
Yep. Okay. That's it.
So is there, go ahead, Dave.
Well, I wanted to, ask, just open, kind of an open-ended question. I'm going to tee one up for you here, Andrew. So what's the big deal? Why is hemp grain for animal feed, why is that a big deal?
Well, I think why it's a big deal is what it really represents to the industry, to farmers, to feed producers. We have a lack of feed right now in general in the United States. Feed stocks are down across the board. There's only 90 days left of corn throughout the world, and China currently owns 60%. Wow. China has 60% of that. So that's a real challenge that the United States faces. When you look at soybeans, we're into about 120 days to 160 days with soybeans in the world, and again, China has 60% of that. And those are the estimates, of course. But China,
when you say China has it, you mean they produced it and they're sitting on it? So if you took China out of the equation, we'd be down to like a 30-day supply, or what?
Yeah, exactly. China's been warehousing commodities as best as they can, importing them, producing them wherever they can get commodities. So yeah, 60% of all commodities in the world are currently held by China. And if we were to take that out, then the rest of the world has 40%. So yeah, there's very, very little food supply out there actually for animals for this particular season. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, you've got COVID, you've got the war in Ukraine, you've got tremendous drought throughout the United States. There's not one reason for this, but ultimately all of this has led to a lot of problems. There's been a lot of problems in South America in terms of production from last year. So there's a lot of problems throughout the world in terms of grain production, and we need some alternatives. Not only does the hemp industry, is good for the hemp industry through growth, but what's the point of that? If the hemp industry grows and it doesn't benefit the people around it in the community, it doesn't benefit agriculture, that's not ideal. But we can grow hemp in some areas that are very water starved in ways that we can't grow some of the other crops. You've got cotton that is really swept through northern Texas and into Kansas, even because of the drought conditions and the lower amount of water that it can use relative to corn. But then hemp can use less than what that cotton is using. And there's some areas that really, really just need some alternative crops. And then when you talk about animals, I mean, the benefit to the animal itself. So it's very high in protein, omega-3s, omega-6s, all the different fatty acids, tremendous health benefits relative to some of the other crops out there. So I think in general, it's very good all the way around. It's not going to hurt corn farmers. It's not going to hurt soybean farmers. It's going to benefit all of the industry, from the animals all the way to the humans.
Yeah, that's where I expected you to lead. I didn't know, because I hear these dire warnings about our food supplies and such, but that's kind of scary. As far as growing hemp, on social media, I saw you grousing about a field, and it was a rotational crop. There's some issues. Can you talk about that? Where, you've seen some challenges in growing hemp following another crop.
So, where I guess I see the biggest challenges when people are trying to monocrop. We don't see as many challenges when people are doing it from a rotational standpoint, other than the lack of experience. I mean, there's a general, move into frame here. There's a general lack of experience out there due to the lack of years. So there are some struggles there for producers. But we typically see quite a bit of benefit in terms of using it as a rotational crop. Now, it's not. There's some misnomers there. Hemp uses a lot of nitrogen, just like corn does. So if you're going to follow corn with hemp or hemp with corn, something like that, you are going to have to introduce more nitrogen to the soil. So there are some aspects there that can be good for the soil conditions and help keep out pests when used as a rotational crop. But we still have to look at what those needs of that plant are.
Okay.
The monocropping is really hard, where people want to grow hemp on hemp. It just, it's like any crop. It's hard to do that. The land doesn't really support that. Having a good rotation is really where everything becomes beneficial. And that's one of the struggles I think that we've had in the United States. We've had so few options from a rotational crop standpoint that actually net the amount of revenue that farmers can continue to operate on. And right now, if you look at the hemp market in general and grain production, if you wanted to grow grain, what would you do with it? So the Hemp Feed Coalition, really one of our responsibilities that we take very seriously is trying to find markets for these producers by opening the marketplace up. The market will fix itself once the regulation supports the marketplace, but the current regulation just is not supporting the marketplace.
Yeah, we don't have the processing capability either, do we? I mean, Morgan, she's with IND Hemp. They have some things going on. South Bend Hemp has some fiber activity. I don't know if they're doing grain or not, but
there we go.
It's just not there yet, is there?
Well, I would say in the United States, currently, with the equipment that's set up, we've got the capability of processing around 30 to 50,000 acres of grain this year. So, no, that's not a lot. We do need more production, but we do have capacity in the marketplace. What we don't have is offload opportunities for these producers. Again, if we raise capacity, all of the facilities in the United States, for the most part, are currently set up for food grade processing, strictly for humans. Animal grade processing just isn't out there. There's not a secondary market for this material. And that's a real challenge for farmers, because you could have a material that could be perfectly healthy and not dangerous to an animal, that's really not dangerous to a human either, but doesn't quite meet those food grade standards. Maybe the peroxide level is slightly elevated, and could still be fed to an animal. Well, now that farmer, they can't sell that grain at all. There's just not that secondary outlet. So it makes it a little less interesting for farmers, knowing that there is quite a risk there, that they can only go into food grade markets. And that food grade market is a little bit constrained currently.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the fiber industry,
So
one of the things I'm not sure people correlate is actually the fiber industry could grow faster if the grain industry had the ability to move forward, because we could see a lot of hemp being grown as a secondary byproduct to grain production, which would drive down that cost.
With the dual crop?
Correct.
Okay. Blaine,
one of the things that farmers can do to.
Oh, Blaine doesn't have good internet access where he's at, I don't think.
It happens. I run into that quite a bit, unfortunately.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of a chicken and the egg. So we need the buyers, but when you talk to the buyers, they're like, well, yeah, I want to buy X amount now. It's like, well, no, we can have a contract. I can get it to you in a year from now or 9 months or whatever, so that's the whole chicken and the egg thing seems to be a bit of a challenge.
Well, I think actually from the hemp feed perspective, there are buyers. There's a lot of buyers. The challenge the buyers have from a hemp feed perspective is they can't appropriately market it to animals, and they don't have the regulation that's supporting them in that regard. But as soon as that regulation were to change, you would see a massive shift in the industry for hemp grain. Yeah, and what we'd see is, this isn't going to replace corn or soybeans. Again, this is something that's being added in as an ingredient at levels somewhere between 10 and 20%. Is typically where we're seeing. So it's just another part of the animal's diet.
Okay.
Yeah, as Andrew was going to ask, do you feel that the pushback isn't coming because they don't want to have the feed competition? It's just that they just don't have the information at this point, do you think?
Yeah, well, the actual pushback is a direct result of a lack of standards. So what AFCO is really pointing to is, since the FDA hasn't established a safe amount of for CBD or THC in an animal food product, then AFCO is basically saying all amounts are too much, and that's not right. And so what we've continued to do is try to bring those numbers to them much more clearly to show just how low of levels they are. For instance, we used to conduct all of the testing with a standard of 25 parts per million. So we wouldn't look below 25 parts per million. And we typically almost never saw any type of cannabinoid activity. Sometimes we'd see CBDA, and the Canadians recognize CBDA up to about 70 parts per million in oil production, but much less than typically 1% THC. Well, we've lowered our threshold and provided a new validation through the company Eurofins. They've actually done this validation study down to 1 part per million. So now we're analyzing all of the cannabinoids all the way down to 1 part per million to identify exactly what's there, to share with them just how low of cannabinoid content there is.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about some of the people that you're partnering with in Coalition. And I think Hemp Feed Coalition just recently made a major kind of connection with another group to help out, right?
Oh, yes. We just started working with the National Hemp Association, and they're providing us some wonderful administration and fundraising support, which we desperately need to continue to help doing what we're doing.
What about the cost for trying to do this? I know when they talked at the expo there that it was quite an expense, and then the animals had to be destroyed in the end. So maybe talk about the cost and how people can help support this cause if they need to or want to.
Yeah, so I'll kind of just walk through the timeline and what this looks like from a timeline and cost perspective. So the application, there's not an application fee. AFCO, the Association of Feed Control Officials, they don't charge for the application. So the application's free. That's completely zero. Most of the funding is going to go directly towards the research. So the research, and the research would be acquiring animals, growing animals, feeding animals, all of the testing done on the animals, all of the analysis being done on the animals, all of that. We estimate per animal that's $200,000 to $250,000, and will take from 4 to 8 months to do the initial research, and then we would expect a review of samples and an analysis report take an additional 6 months potentially. So that whole process, start to finish, could be approximately 18 months and well into $250,000. And then once we have that, then we have to hire a third-party consultant group, and we're going to pay them about $30,000 to $50,000 to analyze those results and produce ultimately human safety analysis and a target animal species safety analysis. And they'll actually write that up and put that in the application for us. The other parts we submit ourselves, which is part of we submit this certificates of authenticity. We have to submit the definition of manufacturing process as well. So that's some of what our side of it is going to do. And then we take what the consultants do, put that together in one application, and somewhere between 12 on the very, very fast end. The more money you have, the faster you can do some of this stuff. Up to 24 months, then we'll have something that we could submit. So anywhere from 12 to 24 months, and we're up to about close to $300,000 to submit one application. And that's just for one species. The target animal, for instance, in this current application is an egg-laying chicken. It's not a boiler chicken, so that we have to supply another application for other types of chickens, just like you would with cattle. If you were going to do cow-calf pairs, or you're doing beef cattle, depending on what type of cattle that is, then we have to have a different application for those. Now, once we submit that to AAFCO has 180 days to respond. And if they don't respond favorably, then you have questions to answer, more results that you have to provide. Maybe you have to redo a study. That can take us anywhere from 180 or more days to submit that back to them. And once we have that back to them, then they again have another 180 days. So this process could well go into 2, 3, 4 years potentially, when ultimately going down to the crux of what's the kickback, not having those established standards set by the FDA for us to be able to measure against.
Do you see other countries that
I don't know if you've seen this.
Established rules to do this?
So we have seen, there's actually information out there already, whether you look in Canada or you look for Europe. Europeans recommending 60 parts per million as a threshold for CBD. And we're typically much lower than that. And THC actually in the United States already has a recognized limit of 10 parts per million. So there is some establishment of standards out there. And I believe Canada has, 125 is what Canada has established for their oil. So we do see standards out there. We do know that this can be measured pretty easily. We do know what our results are. We do know that it's safe. We just have to get a group of regulators to be willing to agree to that with us.
And they won't allow, well, it just comes back to the standards you're saying, because they're not allowing any of the research from other countries to be used in consideration.
Well, they are looking at some of that, but again, it really comes down to they have the ability to point to something, and they keep pointing to that. Now we'll see what their new response is. We've submitted, they asked us four questions. We've submitted information back on 3 out of 4 of those. And so we should be seeing a response here, hopefully in the next 30 to 60 days on those. And then we'll be submitting the final information here in the next 30 days. And we'll see what that response looks like. So we're definitely not sitting on our hands and saying, they don't want to approve it. What we're doing is saying, okay, well, they don't want to approve it because of this, that, or the other thing. And so we're going after each one of their arguments, and we are producing scientific data to show that the other side of that, their concern.
Andrew, I don't know if you saw this or not, but I got this today. The AAFCO is having a hemp as a feed ingredient, a national discussion on Tuesday, August the 9th from 12 until 4 p.m. Eastern time. It is a free event. You need to register for it. But I don't know if you've seen that or not. It just came out this morning into my mail.
Yeah, I did get registered for that. I'm curious what kind of dialogue is going to happen here. Again, we here at the Hemp Feed Coalition, we have direct contact with people at AAFCO and the CVM and have been working on the application. So we have a lot of direct knowledge as to what their opinions are, good, bad, or otherwise. But I am looking forward to this forum, and hopefully there's some knowledge that can be gleaned there. And if nothing else, highlight just some of the challenges that we do have, and maybe some smarter people will have some creative solutions to this. One of the things that we have continued to try to trumpet and will continue to try to push forward is the idea that hemp for animal feed should have grass status. It does have that for humans. So we're already feeding humans hemp and hemp seed, and it has grass status. But for some reason, we can't feed it to an animal and then feed that animal to a human. There's not a lot of logic there. But that's another direction. If we could achieve grass status, we wouldn't have to go through this entire process of all of these applications, and ultimately AFCO is looking for millions and millions and millions of dollars in research to be done, and decades of research is what they're asking for at this current point for something that you can go to.
It does seem kind of silly because, like I say, yeah, you or I could go to any store, health food store. You can go to any grocery store at this point too. A lot of them, and you can buy hemp parts. You can buy hemp oil. You can buy hemp protein powder. All that stuff for humans. But I guess we don't have the Dr. Doolittle. I guess so. That's why we got to go through all this.
Well, and that actually brings us around to what you started with at the beginning, which is a lot of state departments of agriculture are starting to take a look at this and saying, hey, maybe we should take action here because we're not seeing action being taken anywhere else. And because there is a lot of safety information out there, we're seeing states like Montana that have legalized feed for animals. Now, you can't feed it to a production animal yet, but you can feed it to dogs, cats, horses. Not only can you feed it, you can sell it. So a company can come in, produce a feed processing facility and actually sell into the marketplace, which is exactly what we want to see for this marketplace to start to grow. They're just hemmed in by the state line. The state of Tennessee was really forward thinking. I think it was back in 2017, Tennessee actually passed a bill that allowed animals to be fed hemp. It basically, what it did was labeled hemp as a I forget the term that it was labeled as, but anyway, you have to declare to the consumer that the animal has an adulterant. They declared hemp an adulterant is what they did, which I don't think that's the solution. We want it as an ingredient, but by labeling it as an adulterant in the state of Tennessee, you can feed it to an animal. And as long as you tell the person that is going to be eating that animal that it was fed hemp, it is legal in the state of Tennessee and has been since 2017.
That's cool. Well, Andrew, we're going to take a real quick break as soon as Blaine gets his internet back, and thank our sponsors. We're playing with this new technology. We've got a lot of features we can play with now. Now that we've gotten off the Zoom and went to this StreamYard, it's kind of interesting. So, but and we do want to thank Bish Enterprises for being a corporate sponsor of iHemp Michigan. That's really supportive. And when Blaine gets back, after we get back in, let's talk about how people can help the Hemp Feed Coalition. So, Blaine, we're taking a quick break here. You have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, Dave, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Unfortunately, my super secret location that I'm at has really sucky internet at this point. We're trying to upgrade that, but so sometimes I have to get back into the studio. So, but yeah, I've got a couple things I want to talk a little bit about today. Want to let everybody know that in Tampa, Florida, August 8th and 9th, Kush is going to be having an expo down there. And we're real fortunate that Scott Colville, another one of our great sponsors that helps us out, and his brother are going to be down there talking about iHemp and some of the insurance that's available. And I wanted to mention that a little bit. We were talking about ways that farmers can offset the risk of this. There is crop insurance, national crop insurance available for hemp for grain, hemp for fiber, and also for CBD.
Yep. So contact Colville Crop Insurance, Scott Colville, and I will put that in the chat. I did put your link in the chat, Andrew, with to your Fish Enterprises.
Oh, do put a link to the hempfeedcoalition.org, please.
I did that as well. Yes,
Great.
I did. Oh, very good. And our producer, thank you very much, Mr. Producer. Look at that. We're getting big time here, man. We have a producer. Isn't that awesome? Jen, thank you, Jen.
So I'm back again,
Okay.
Dave. Now, can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, sorry. We'll fix this for next time. We'll get this better, but I'll try to put a hard line into the box next time. Maybe do that. I want to give a shout out to Kim Crows. I don't know if everybody's seen some articles that have come out for her and her hemp house that she's building here in Michigan. So a lot of press is coming out on that. That's going to stir a lot of interest for people to look at the building material, and we'll be helping Kim promote that and be able to talk about that. Maybe we'll try to have a little workshop out there so people can see. She just had one again this last weekend. I know that 12 people were there and had a fun time helping her and learning about how to work with hempcrete. So that was pretty awesome for that. So want to talk about NOCO. They're having the Southern Hemp Expos coming up. That's happening in August as well. So a great time if you want to take a little trip down to Nashville and get a little more insight and knowledge on hemp and all of its uses, and a lot of the sponsors or a lot of the industry that's going to be there. That's a great show to go to. We were there a couple of years ago for sure.
A lot of fun. Yep.
Also, I want to mention that the Midwest Hemp database is closing soon. You have until July 24th to get into that. So if you're a grower of any hemp this year and you want to get into that database, it's great to be able to supply that information. That's how we're going to move the industry forward, is going to be with all this database to know what grows well, what varieties grow well, and what they're able to produce. So and there's also some reduction on the fees for getting the tested, and they've worked with a couple of labs to do that. So that's the Midwest Hemp database, and again, that's open until July 24th. You can get into that. And another interesting little article that came out, Vermont. Vermont is ending their state program very soon, and then they're going to go back to growers in Vermont will just sign up under the USDA program, and they'll still be able to grow there, but they just don't have a state program. So that'll be ending real soon. So, and maybe a couple other things at the end of the show, Dave, I'll have, and we're going to have a fun recipe this time of year is blueberries. So we've got a nice blueberry recipe that we're going to bring up here in just a little bit. So,
all right.
Back to you, Dave.
Andrew, how do people help the Hemp Feed Coalition? You've got to raise a lot of money. So how can people contribute and help with that?
Yeah, well, you can go right to our website, hempfeedcoalition.org. And we would love people to support the Hemp Feed Coalition. We take donations there, obviously. For just $100, you can become a member of the Hemp Feed Coalition. And we are a complete nonprofit organization. The only people that we have on staff are an executive director and administrative support. All of the board members work for free. We all work very hard, and we're all happy to do so because we understand what we can do for the industry. But some other things you can do is if other people want to help us with studies, we'd be happy to work with people from a sponsorship level if there's a particular study that they want to sponsor, or if you're the type of producer that wants to donate some of their animals to a study that can help drive down some of the costs because it is very expensive. All the animals have to be destroyed when you're doing this type of test, so it is not an inexpensive way of conducting research.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So those are some ways that we'd be happy to get the support of people on. And other than that, spreading awareness. So many people think that it's not legal. and just driving that awareness that this is a problem. We need more people that can step up. That are willing to help make this not a problem. And it's not really the industry's problem. What we really need is support outside of the industry from the animal food makers to step up, provide some dollars to make this happen, because they're going to be one of the chief beneficiaries. I don't think the farmers are the people that we're after to take money from, although we do have a lot of farmers that support us, and we appreciate that. There's a lot of companies that are going to stand to benefit from the work that the Hemp Feed Coalition and so many other people in this industry are doing right now.
Yeah, like you say, it's a superfood, and you can go to your grocery store and buy it and consume it. I put it in my oatmeal in the morning, but we can't feed it to the chickens. It'll make my omelet. Okay. Yeah, it's crazy.
And I think too, if anybody's doing, I know I make the oil and I have that protein that's left over. And so I've been getting tests that have been run on that, and I've been supplying that to the Hemp Feed Coalition, US Hemp Feed Coalition. So if anybody is doing that, I'm certainly, Andrew, you'd probably love to have those results to help support your research that's going on, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. The more certificates of analysis that we have, the better off we are in terms of proving certain cases. So we'd love to have any data that we can get. That's another great way to help support the organization. And we appreciate you.
So besides the chicken, yeah, not a problem. I'm glad that I can able to do that. That's for sure. So besides the egg-laying chicken study that we've had, is there anything else being done with any cattle or any of that stuff at this point, or not quite yet?
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of studies happening, mostly around cattle, believe it or not. So we've been working with Oregon out there. You've got the Center for, I'm losing my brain here right now. So with Oregon State University, they've got the National Hemp Institute out there. And what they're doing is a study on actually feeding processed material. So they're taking spent biomass and feeding that to cattle, and looking at the transference rates that they're seeing going into either the milk or the meat itself. And that's a really interesting study that's going to get wrapped up here in the next couple months, and then an application is going to come out of that study. We're also seeing Kansas State University is doing some testing where they're feeding animals not spent biomass, but high CBD flour material, and again looking for transference amongst several different types of animals. We just saw a study wrap up in Colorado State with some goats. That's just a sampling. There's several other universities out there. Tarleton University is doing some testing. North Carolina, North Dakota is working on a cattle study. I mentioned Colorado State. So a lot of different universities actually are coming online in terms of getting some real hard research on this, and all of the data continues to show just how safe it is. Even the spent biomass data is phenomenal. What we're seeing is just very, very low levels, if any transference at all. And if you withhold that spent biomass from a cow, for instance, for 30 days, you won't see any level of transference. So you can actually, we could actually set up some standards while we're trying to figure out the rest of this, where animals could eat the plants all the way up until the last 30 days and then not be allowed to eat it. That could be a start. But we're seeing tremendous results that are very positive for the industry. The more and more studying we're doing.
Well, it's going to be game changing when all this comes together. 10 years from now, what's your vision? Where do you see us with hemp in the nation?
I hope we're talking about it just like we talk about corn and soybeans. We've normalized. We've gone from 500 associations down to one or two appropriate groups for us. Really commoditization. That's what I see within 10 years. Is it really will reach commodity status.
Excellent. Yeah, I know that's where we need to be, and that's where it should be. We just need to get back to that. So we really appreciate all the work that you're doing, the time and energy and sweat equity to put into this industry, because that's going to help. It's good for people and the planet.
Yeah, and here at the Hemp Feed Coalition, we'd love nothing more than to dissolve ourselves and go away because we accomplished our objectives. That'd be the best thing we could see happen.
Awesome. Now, are you hearing,
And if you haven't signed up, I know you can go to the website, and I believe you can sign up to get notices, update to what's going on. So if you haven't done that, do that for sure. And if you're all in the industry, interested, show up, help out, be a member of the group. That also helps, like Andrew said, that helps out quite a bit too. So
yeah.
USHempFeedCoalition.org.
Now, Andrew,
sure.
We have a unique situation, relatively unique in Michigan, in that we have recreational cannabis. And when we get talking about hemp and the tens of thousands of acres of industrial hemp we want to grow in the state, sometimes it makes the cannabis side a little bit nervous. Have you run across that?
Yeah, we do see that. Especially in Colorado. I'm a member of the Colorado Hemp Association, and there are some concerns, and some of them are more legitimate than others. Although what I would say is that in a lot of places, growing outside for cannabis may not be the best option. But there are places where it works very, very well. So I can't discount everyone. I think it's a tough conversation to have, because what do you do? Both growers have a right to grow, right? And I think we got to look at coming to the table and understanding a little bit more about timelines. If we understand a little bit more about pollination timelines and how people are growing their cannabis, there may be some opportunity there to allow them to grow together and not disturb each other. But I think there definitely needs to be more calm dialogue about ways to make it work. And instead of the current dialogue seems to be directed towards how do we find a way to be difficult and not make this work. But it is tough when you have multiple parties, and especially in this situation, pollen can be a big problem for flowering cannabis plants.
Mm-hmm. It seems like anything medicinal should be in a more controlled environment, that it should go inside.
I think that growing it outdoors is almost going to force indoor growers to grow in, or outdoor growers to grow indoors for some of that flower. I don't know what's right or wrong, but I think inevitably that's probably what we're going to see happen, because it is a lot safer to do. If you get indoors, you just don't have those problems. At the same time, it does rise costs. You do see a considerable rise in costs for those producers. So I empathize with those growers as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's been an oversupply in that market as well. So you've seen the markets crash. You saw it in Oregon, you saw it in Colorado, and now it's happening in Michigan. It seems like, not to go down this path too far, but there's this rush for licensure, and the state's happy to bring in all the money, but there's no thought behind the market that they're developing. That's just throwing it out there, and the market will figure it out eventually.
Yeah, it's been doing a better job of that. It is doing a better job of finding itself lately.
Yeah.
One of the things that Canex Exchange put a article out the other day, that they're seeing that the price is coming up a little bit on the CBD oil, because a lot of the excess now is being used up, and So that's good news for that part of the market there for sure.
Yeah,
And of course, we're seeing great things happen all the time with on the fiber side with South Bend Hemp and IND Hemp, and now Agro Duro is going to do the plant down in Indiana. So again, just every day there's so many great articles about what's going on. And I think we're going to get to the point where the supply is on the fiber side is going to need to be there, and I think that's going to make a market here eventually. So
yeah, I would say
and with what Kim's
the positive thing about growing fiber is we're going to need a lot of it. So anybody that's growing it to sit on it, it's not going to be like CBD where that market is so constrained. This fiber market is going to need a lot of acres. When you start doing the math, the amount of acres is phenomenal. It's incredible number of acres.
Yeah.
And you've got some great equipment for harvesting that people need to look at as they move into the industry and look at that as well. So
yeah, we'd love people to come take a look at our website as well, bishenterprise.com, also hempharvestworks.com. We've got some great solutions for producers. That's what we love to do here, is we like to solve the problems of producers. I come from a long line of farmers. Most of my family still farms. And we like to help farmers, and we love working in agriculture.
Excellent.
Is there any demonstration plots or projects or anything going on this year that you're going to be at, or that you'd recommend people in different states maybe attend to find out more?
Great question. There's a lot of good research being done out there. The University of Illinois has a good program. The University of Kentucky. You've got some good research going on in Tennessee, Texas A&M. I can't think of a lot of good events with field visits this year, unfortunately. We do have different plots that we're doing around the country, but nothing that we're really dragging people to at any point. There was a really nice one done with Melissa Nelson at South Bend Hemp this last week, which I would have encouraged people to go to. And if you want to go see her plots, you're more than welcome to run down to Great Bend, Kansas. I'm sure she'll show them to you. But what they're doing at the Global Hemp Association, those test plots are really going to be helpful, from a data collection standpoint. I just wish we saw the FDA doing more, the USDA doing more of that, funding more of that research, rather than, again, the industry funding it, which, the USDA does a lot of funding for other commodities, which is why I would, otherwise I don't try to take too much money from the government. It comes with too many requirements. But if we want to treat it like a normal crop, the USDA has to start kicking in $1 or $2 every once in a while.
All right. Before we get into the
yes, and I know some states are.
I was just going to say, Andrew, before we get into the recipe and wrap things up, anything else you want to share? Any call to action?
Just that, please visit the website. Please find out about what the Hemp Feed Coalition does. Please provide any level of support that you can. Anything helps. It's all going to help the industry. It's going to raise prices throughout the entire industry and drive down costs. If you like working in the industry, please support what we do with the Hemp Feed Coalition. It touches all aspects of this industry and in a very positive way.
Excellent. Very good. Blaine, are you ready for the recipe? You want to share? You have any more news you want to share before we get to that?
Just a couple of things I do want to share. I know that Rachel's doing a great job with the Illinois Association she's got there. Man, she's a hard worker. Keeping up with her kind of makes me tired sometimes. But they're going to be at the Illinois State Fair, which is going to be August 15th and 21st. So if you're attending the State Fair, they're going to be there to be spreading the word about hemp and what.
Oh. Yep. So August 15th at the Illinois State Fair, you can see Rachel Berry from the Illinois Hemp Growers Association. Rachel's an active promoter of industrial hemp, and one of those 500 associations like ourselves that are out there. Yeah, it's like we need to. Yeah, that's certainly on my mind. It's like what lane? Because we all the big thing, Andrew, I feel is education. That we need to educate people on hemp, what it is, and how it can benefit them. So, that's where I think it takes more than 500 voices to make that happen.
So, yeah, I think education is a component. I think right now we actually have smarter consumers than we have regulators and legislators, and getting the education to that group is definitely important. And then from there, I'm not sure whether it's an education problem or what the problem is, but the more data we have out there, the easier it is to make informed decisions. And I do think the consumer market's going to continue to make informed decisions, which lead to adding more hemp into their diets.
Yeah, that's exciting. So I'm going to jump in. We've got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and share. Becky helped us out. We've got the hemp seed and blueberry corn muffins is our recipe for the day. So I don't know if Blaine has any of these made. Sometimes he has them made up. I wish he could just like pass them right through the camera some days.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. So 30-minute setup. This is a recipe from Amber. Not sure where Amber's from, but thank you, Amber. Hemp seeds contribute a bit of crunch plus omega-3 fatty acids and a little fiber. They're so yummy. So, Blaine, you want to jump in? I see.
Well, I can, Dave. I'm sorry, I don't know where I dropped off there, but I was thanking Andrew for all the work that he's been doing, and appreciate that. And we're going to try to keep touting the Hemp U.S. Feed Coalition and the great things you're doing there, and have everybody help with that.
Most definitely.
So, now, Dave, my screen's a little small, and I wasn't able to print this out. So maybe I'm going to let you do the recipe part there today.
I'll keep rolling. I don't have the hemper. You know what?
Okay.
I do have a hat here somewhere.
Maybe you do have a hemper hat, huh?
But that's okay.
Yeah, I'll get it for the next show. I'll get it for the next show.
We have to work on our shtick. So, 2/3 cup of cornmeal, 2/3 cup flour. Now, that could be hemp flour now, couldn't it?
Absolutely, it could be hemp flour without a doubt. And you can get hemp flour. Sometimes it comes out a little green when you look at the protein, but I know that there's some places you can get some tradition. They've bleached it more or less, and it's a white flour. They've done it just from the hemp hearts instead of from the seed itself, which will give it more of the traditional flavor you're going to taste. So
I have a pancake mix from Lady Jane Hemp, at the Eastern Market in Detroit. She has a store there. You can see her on Saturdays, and the pancakes come out a little brown, but they are yummy. But they're brown.
A little green. I always say that's
grayish. Not the prettiest color. So yeah, it works. All right, some baking powder.
They're good for you.
Yeah. A couple eggs. So we got some more protein in there, some milk, honey, vanilla extract, butter. Is that enough butter? 3 tablespoons? It seems a little light. We might need a little more butter. And a cup of frozen blueberries. And
you're gonna butter the muffin when you get it, so you get the butter that way.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah,
we've got one recipe book that begins with a stick of butter. So that's. But so you preheat your oven, coat your muffin pan.
Everything's better with butter.
Yeah, you betcha. So whisk it all together, and pour your mixture in the pan. Stir in the melted butter and blueberries, and bake it. It's pretty easy. Yeah, blueberry muffins with some hemp hearts.
And help your blueberry farmers right now, because now is blueberry season. So get those frozen. That's what I like to do with them. I like my personal one. I like the blue crop the best, but that's just my personal favorite. So.
All right, excellent. Well, thanks for playing along, Andrew. We appreciate everything you're doing, and we'll be here. Let us know how we can help. We'll put some information out. Promote the Hemp Feed Coalition. That's a very important cause, near and dear to our heart. So,
well, thank you for allowing me to be here and to talk a little bit about it. And I appreciate the time of both of you gentlemen. And I love that recipe. Love that recipe.
Yeah, let's give it a try. Okay. All right.